Blade of the Crane. The morning sun hung low, gilding the rice fields in uneasy light. Haruto, wiry and 18, his hands rough as old bark, hefted his wooden bakken with trembling resolve. Each swing cut the humid air, yet his breath hitched as doubts clawed at him. Was this the path to honor, or just another way to earn scorn? Sweat slid down his forehead, dark hair tied in a knot, and he muttered through gritted teeth,
"One day I'll prove I'm more than dirt."
Still, even as the words left his lips, he questioned whether more was worth the price. Hidden in the bamboo grove, Aiko watched him struggle with envy and guilt in equal measure. She'd spent years learning the silent arts, forging herself into a weapon no tradition would bless. At 17, she knew the price of every stolen lesson. Yet here was Haruto, clumsy but fierce, chasing a dream she feared might destroy him. Her sharp green eyes narrowed as he overextended, nearly faltering. Without warning, she dropped a pine cone at his shoulder.
"You're loud enough to wake the dead,"
she teased, but her voice quivered with something like relief and dread. Haruto spun, anger flaring before guilt doused it.
"Aiko, don't sneak up on me."
He forced a grin that felt brittle in his chest. They had grown up together, two misfits bound by loyalty thicker than blood. Yet lately he wondered if loyalty was enough to keep them alive. Aiko's quick laughter echoed in the clearing, but even that lightness trembled on the edge of something darker. Their village in Omi province buzzed with rumors of war. Lord Kimura, minor daimyo under Oda Nobunaga, was gathering spears and swords for a campaign against the Atsai and Asakura clans. Haruto had overheard the samurai debates in the stable, boasts of crushing rebels, shouts for glory. He found himself polishing armor with a trembling hand, stomach churning at the thought of death. Was he forging a path to honor, or merely feeding a slaughter? Aiko carried her own burden. Last night her uncle, an Eiga shinobi, had pressed a coded scroll into her palm. His voice had been so quiet she'd almost missed the stakes. The young Atsai heir, 10-year-old Kenji, hidden in a temple by the Anegawa River. If Nobunaga triumphed, the boy would die. Aiko's heart thudded with conflicting urges, loyalty to her clan, duty to her lord, and a deeper instinct to save an innocent. The risk felt too large to bear, yet she couldn't turn away. That evening, fireflies drifted among the rice stalks as they met at the village shrine. Blossoms floated on a breeze that smelled of rain and coming bloodshed. Haruto gripped his bakken, voice tight.
"They're calling every able hand. I'm to carry spears for the samurai. My chance to rise."
Pride warred in him against the memory of Aiko's warning, "War's no poem." Aiko's eyes flickered with fear. She dared not speak.
"Fighting isn't a poem, Haruto. You swing that stick like hope, but steel cuts deeper than dreams."
She hesitated, lowering her voice.
"I'm leaving tonight. A mission you can't mention."
He froze, betrayal and concern warring behind his brown eyes.
"What mission? You're not meant for—"
"A shinobi.
She snapped, stepping so close their shadows mingled.
"And I need your help."
In the lamplight, she looked vulnerable and unstoppable all at once. When she revealed Kenji's fate, Haruto's jaw clenched. To aid her was to label himself a traitor to Lord Kimura, and maybe to Nobunaga. Yet abandoning her felt impossible.
"Fine,"
he growled, though his voice shook.
"But if we die, I'm blaming you."
Dawn broke over the Anegawa River on July 30th, 1570. The banks churned to mud by hooves and heavy boots. Haruto stood among Kimura's ashigaru, clutching a bundle of spears while war cries split the air. Every clang of steel and shout of rage made his heart twist with dread. This wasn't the glorious proving ground he'd imagined. It was a massacre waiting to happen, and he'd handed them more weapons. Aiko slipped ahead through the mist, a living shadow. She'd scoped the hillside temple where Kenji trembled. Haruto followed, mind racing. Could he protect the boy? Could he protect her? He forced himself to breathe, to stay close behind her silent form. At the temple's edge, 3 Atsai guards stood watch. Aiko crouched by a stone lantern, voice barely a whisper. "I'll draw them. You grab the boy." Haruto nodded, palms slick. When she cracked a smoke pellet, gray clouds rolled out and the guards coughed, ranks broken just long enough. Aiko darted forward, kunai slicing. Haruto sprinted to the side door, heart hammering so loud he half feared the guards would hear it. Inside, he found Kenji huddled by a threadbare tatami mat, wide-eyed and clutching a wooden flute. Seeing the boy's terror, Haruto's resolve wavered, then hardened.
I'm Haruto,
He said softly.
I'm here to help.
His voice cracked, and Kenji clung tighter. Outside, the battle's roar climbed to a fever pitch. Nobunaga's cavalry thundered like a storm. Arrows sizzled through the air, and the smell of blood turned his stomach. Haruto led Kenji up the temple's back stairs, only to freeze when an Atsai samurai barred their path.
"Traitors!"
The man roared, blade raised. Haruto's bokken felt absurd in his trembling hands. Then Aiko emerged, diving between them with a kunai flash that gutted the samurai's arm. He staggered back, and she ended him with a merciless kick. Haruto didn't pause to think. He scooped Kenji into his arms, and they fled. They plunged into the forest as the river ran red with the clash of clans. Haruto glanced back at the far bank, where Nobunaga stood at the center of a whirlwind of steel and smoke. Power like that awed him, then chilled him with its deadly finality. Some hours later, they crouched in a rocky cave. Kenji trembled against Aiko, her voice gentle as she soothed him. Haruto watched her, pride and fear thundering in his chest. She'd saved them both, but who would save them now? A distant twig snapped. Haruto's hand went to his bokken, Aiko's to her kunai. In the half-light, the forest pressed in like a living thing. They had defied lords and clans, stolen a child from the jaws of war, and now, as the shadows moved, neither knew if they could outrun the vengeance that surely trailed them. Yet in that moment, shoulder to shoulder, they were more than outcasts. They were each other's last stand.
The Weight of Defiance. The forest path to Osaka was a labyrinth of mud and doubt, each step sinking Haruto deeper into a mire of self-recrimination. His bokken, nicked and scarred from the frantic escape at Anegawa, hung at his hip like a judgment. At 18, he'd once swung it with dreams of glory, imagining a samurai's nod that would lift him from the dirt of his peasant birth. Now, with Kenji's small hand gripping his sleeve and Aiko's silent steps beside him, those dreams felt like ashes. He was no hero, just a boy who'd fled a battle, branded a traitor by the lord he'd sworn to serve. Every rustle in the underbrush spiked his pulse. Were Oda's scouts already tracking them? Had he traded his village's pride for a fleeting act of defiance that would end in a noose? Aiko moved like a wisp of smoke, her green eyes scanning the trees for threats. Her kunai, tucked beneath her dark kasade, was a cold comfort against the guilt that gnawed her. Saving Kenji had been her choice, a rebellion against her uncle's shinobi code that demanded obedience above all. But each step toward Ishiyama Hongan-ji deepened her fear that she'd doomed them all. She was trained to be a shadow, to kill without hesitation, yet the weight of Kenji's life and Haruto's loyalty pressed heavier than any blade. She glanced at Haruto, his shoulders hunched under an invisible burden, and wondered if she'd asked too much of him. Had she pulled him into a betrayal he could never outrun? Her heart ached with the question, But the answer was a void she dared not face. Kenji, barely 10, shuffled between them, his wooden flute clutched like a shield against the world's cruelty. His wide eyes flinched at every snapping twig, and Haruto's chest tightened at the sight. The boys' survival was their triumph, yet it felt like a lie. They'd slipped through Anegawa's chaos, dodging Nobunaga's cavalry and the screams of dying men, but the war's shadow clung to them. In a farmer's hut, where they'd hidden for a night, whispers had reached them. Oda Nobunaga's wrath had turned to Ishiyama Hongan-ji, the fortified temple in Osaka, where the Iko-iki monks defied his iron grip. If they could deliver Kenji to the monks, he might find refuge. But Haruto's mind churned with doubt. Would the monks welcome a fugitive child, or see him as a liability? And what of himself? Was he running toward salvation or a deeper betrayal? The late autumn wind cut through Haruto's thin kimono, chilling the sweat on his brow. The road grew crowded as they neared Osaka, cloud-lugged with refugees, mothers clutching infants, merchants muttering about Oda's approaching army. Haruto's stomach twisted. He'd once polished spears for men like these, men who sneered at his low birth. Now he was worse than a peasant, a deserter who'd chosen a boy's life over his lord's honor.
What if the monks refuse us?
He whispered to Aiko, keeping his voice low so Kenji wouldn't hear.
We've got no name, no coin. Just a kid they might not care about.
Aiko's gaze flickered, a storm of fear and resolve in her eyes.
They'll take him,
She said, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands.
The Iko-iki despise Nobunaga. They'll see Kenji as a blow against him.
She paused, her fingers brushing her kunai.
But you, Haruto, you could still turn back. Tell Kimura I forced you. Beg for mercy.
Her words were a challenge, but beneath them lay a plea. Don't leave me alone in this. Haruto's jaw clenched, anger flaring to mask the fear that clawed his insides.
You think I'd abandon you? That I'm that spineless?
But the truth was a bitter pill. He was terrified of the shame that awaited if he returned, of the death that loomed if he stayed. Aiko had always been the stronger one, her resolve a blade honed by years of stolen lessons in the shinobi's art. He wanted to match her, to be the man she believed in, but doubt whispered he was only a boy playing at courage.
I'm here.
He said, "That's it," the words tasting like ash.
But don't ask me to feel good about it.
They pressed on, the coastal city of Ishiyama emerging through a veil of mist. The harbor teemed with ships, their sails emblazoned with clan crests, but an uneasy hush blanketed the streets. Torches flickered along the city's edges where Oda's scouts moved like wolves. The Hongan-ji temple rose ahead, its stone walls a defiant bulwark against the coming storm. Haruto's heart pounded. This was no village shrine. It was a fortress of rebellion, and crossing its threshold might bind them to a war they couldn't win. He glanced at Kenji, whose small frame seemed to shrink under the temple's shadow, and wondered if this was salvation or a trap. At the gates, monks in saffron robes stood like statues, their staffs tipped with iron. Aiko stepped forward, her voice cutting through the wind.
We seek sanctuary for this boy, an Azai heir. Nobunaga wants him dead, but he's no threat to you.
Her words were bold, but her hands trembled, betraying the fear she buried beneath her shinobi's mask. What if they refused? What if her defiance cost Kenji's life? The head monk, his face etched with lines of hardship, studied Kenji, then turned to Haruto.
And you, spear-bearer, why do you stand with them?
His gaze was a blade, slicing through Haruto's defenses. Haruto's throat tightened. He wanted to say honor, to claim a noble cause, but the word felt hollow.
I want to do what's right.
He said, his voice raw with the weight of truth.
But I don't know if I'm strong enough. I'm afraid I've betrayed everything. My lord, my village, myself.
The admission burned, exposing the doubt he'd buried since Anegawa. The monk's eyes softened, and he gestured them inside. Within the temple, the air was heavy with incense and the murmur of prayers. Kenji clung to Aiko, his flute pressed to his chest, as monks offered them rice and water. Haruto ate mechanically, the taste lost to the turmoil in his mind. Had he saved Kenji only to doom himself? Was this act of defiance worth the shame that would follow? He watched Aiko soothe the boy, her gentle tone belying the storm within her. She was wrestling her own demons, duty to her Iga clan, versus the life she'd chosen to save, the shinobi's code versus the heart that refused to harden. Their eyes met, and for a moment their shared fear was a fragile thread binding them. That night, they stood on the temple's ramparts, overlooking Ishiyama's flickering lights. The distant clank of armor and the glow of torches signaled Oda's army massing beyond the city. Aiko's voice was barely a whisper.
The siege is coming. If we stay, we're choosing to fight Nobunaga. If we leave, Kenji's alone.
Her words hung heavy, each one a stone in the wall of her guilt. She'd defied her clan for this boy, but what if it was for nothing? What if her choice dragged Haruto into a grave? Haruto gripped the stone ledge, his knuckles white.
I wanted to be more.
He said, the confession spilling like blood.
To prove I wasn't just dirt under a samurai's heel. But now I'm a traitor, Aiko. If I fight here, I'm against everything I swore to serve. If I run, I'm abandoning you and Kenji.
His voice broke, and he hated the weakness it revealed.
I don't know how to be brave when I'm this scared.
Aiko's hand found his, her touch hesitant but warm.
I'm terrified too.
She admitted, her eyes glistening in the torchlight.
I broke every rule my uncle taught me. I chose Kenji over my clan, over my duty. Every step we take, I wonder if I've cursed us both. But you're here, Haruto. That's the only thing keeping me from breaking.
Her honesty was a knife, cutting through her stoic facade, and it shook him to see her so vulnerable. The temple's bell tolled, a low hum that echoed Haruto's racing heart. He wanted to be her anchor, to stand as tall as she believed he could, but fear gnawed at him. Could he face Oda's army? Could he bear the shame of running? The questions swirled unanswered as the night deepened. As dawn broke on August 12th, 1570, the horizon blazed with Oda's banners. War horns shattered the morning, and arrows rained toward the temple's walls, their tips glinting like cruel stars. The siege of Ishiyama Hongan-ji had begun, a crucible that would burn for 10 years, testing the monks' defiance and their own. Haruto drew his bokken, its weight a frail shield against the chaos. Aiko's kunai gleamed in her hand, her face a mask of resolve, but her eyes betrayed the fear she'd confessed. They stood shoulder to shoulder, Kenji sheltered behind them, as the temple braced for war. Haruto's heart thundered with questions he couldn't silence. Was this honor or madness? Would their defiance save Kenji, or doom them all? Aiko's glance met his, and in that fleeting moment their shared resolve, fragile, flawed, but unbroken, became their only certainty. As the first shouts of battle rose, and the earth trembled with the march of Oda's army, they faced the storm together, two outcasts bound by a choice that might cost them everything, yet defined the only truth they knew.
Cherry blossoms drip, blood on snow they paint the ground, whispers of the wind.
Crimson petals fall, honor calls me to the flame, duty never fades.
The rise of the crane. In the spring of 1571, pale dawn light fractured across the time-worn stones of Hongan-ji Temple, turning mossy walls into ribbons of gold and gray. From the battered ramparts, the distant glint of Oda Nobunaga's banners drifted across the valley like a gathering storm. At 19, Haruto stood barefoot on cool flagstones, his scarred bakken pressed tight to his chest. The dry scent of rice grain and incense stung his nostrils as he watched monks heft sack upon sack against the looming gates. Doubt settled in his gut. Had he betrayed his village by rescuing Kenji, the exiled Azai heir, and pledging himself to these warrior monks? The hollow clang of steel against wood from the outer walls answered his turmoil. Fear of treason warred with his fierce desire to defend these people. When his palms grew raw, stacking rice bags, a flicker of purpose ignited within him. No longer a simple peasant, he was becoming something more, a bulwark against destruction. Under the shadow of towering eaves, 18-year-old Aiko slipped through corridors lit only by trembling lantern flame. Her dark kosode rustled against silent stone as she pressed her spine to the wall and let her jade-green eyes sweep every loophole and arrow slit. Concealed beneath her sleeve, the gleaming curve of a kunai felt like cold iron comfort. She had abandoned her Iga clan's ancient code to spirit Kenji away, turning her lethal training into a quiet rebellion, and guilt gnawed at her heart. Was she villain or savior? Then she glimpsed Haruto's resolute profile, the way he braced rice sacks with monkish calm, and her doubt hardened into resolve. If this was her new path, she would prove its worth. 11-year-old Kenji trailed behind them both, flute in hand, its polished wood warm against his palm. Though the monks had offered him sanctuary, every distant war horn, each harsh blast of trumpet or drum made him flinch. Still, when Haruto lifted him onto a stack of supplies and Aiko brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead, hope flickered in his wide eyes. He clung to their steady courage, longing to find bravery of his own. By 1573, Oda's blockade choked the valley. The sweet scent of fresh rice faded into acrid smoke from distant fires, and hunger sharpened every mind. Haruto exchanged his bakken for a true katana, its steel edge singing under candlelight as he practiced strikes with the monks' instructors. Night after night, his swings grew keener. Each cut a nail driven against his lingering shame. Then came the moonless raid. Haruto led a handful of monks into enemy lines, blades flashing under starlight as they rifled through earthen storehouses. Heart hammering, he returned triumphantly, shoulders squared to the cheers echoing off stone corridors. When Aiko found him there, he set aside his sword and, voice steady as temple bells, declared,
I'm not running anymore.
And in that moment, the memory of Lord Kimura's betrayal faded. Protecting Kenji and the faithful was his only honor. Not long after, in the reed-choked banks beyond the temple moat, Aiko undertook her boldest mission, slipping between bulrushes like a silent shadow. One humid night in 1574, she overheard Oda's captains plotting to flood Hongan-ji. Damp earth pressed against her chest as she raced back, breath rasping to deliver her warning. By lantern glow, the monks christened her Shadow Blade, a name that thawed her guilt into pride. Yet when darkness fell, she still wrestled with loss of her old self. Seated beside Haruto beneath a shivering lantern flame, she whispered,
I broke my clan's rules. What am I now?
He caught her gaze, his brown eyes steady fires.
You're our strength,
he answered, and her heart stilled. Meanwhile, Kenji, now 13, knelt beside wounded brothers and sisters, learning to wrap bandages and pour cooling tea over fevered brows. Each life spared made his chest swell with quiet courage.
I want to help like you,
he said one evening to Haruto, voice soft as linen. Haruto ruffled his dark hair and smiled.
You already are.
In that gentle acknowledgment, Kenji's fear melted into purpose. In the spring of 1575, Haruto's leadership flowered. He sketched a daring plan to storm Oda's supply tents and burn their stores as wildfire, blades flickering like cranes in flight. Smoke curled black against the dawn sky, and when the embers died, the temple would eat for months. The monks hailed him the crane of Hongan-ji, and his doubts fell away entirely. He drilled fresh recruits day and night, his voice calm as he passed on the tactics that had carried him from peasant to warrior. By 1577, Aiko's spy network stretched like spider silk through Oda's camps. She taught young women to melt into shadow, to slip past guards and steal crucial intelligence. When she returned one rain-lashed night, her soaked kimono clinging to slender form, she told Haruto,
I thought I'd lost myself. Now I know who I am.
He took her hand, proud smile in his eyes.
You're our heart.
Kenji, 15, organized food rations and soothed hungry children with quiet songs. His gentle authority wove the temple's factions into a single tapestry of hope.
You're stronger than you think.
Aiko told him as he distributed grain, and in each nod of a grateful face, Kenji found a new measure of courage. By 1579, cannon fire shuddered through Hongan-ji's outer walls, and starvation weighed on every soul. Yet Haruto, now commander of the defense, rallied the weary with stratagems born of years of raids. In the hush before dawn, he whispered orders that unspooled like silken threads, delaying Nobunaga's captains again and again. Aiko, leading her scouts with razor-sharp cunning, sabotaged powder stores beneath enemy guard. Each spark of mischief bought precious days. Together they outwitted assailants and held the temple's battered stones. Kenji, 19, stood in the temple's sick bay, under flickering oil lamps, overseeing a small army of healers. His steady hands bound wounds. His calm voice quelled panic as walls shook to cannon fire.
We'll survive,
he promised a trembling monk, and in that vow, the community found its anchor. When 1580 dawned, Oda's final ultimatum came like thunder: surrender or see every rebel slaughtered. The imperial court pressed for peace, but Haruto refused to abandon the temple that had reshaped him.
We fought too long,
he told the assembly of monks, voice echoing through gilded chambers. Aiko, sharp-minded, resolute, revealed a narrow smuggling tunnel beneath the eastern moor. As dawn's first gray light crept over shattered tiles, she marshaled a small party to slip away. Kenji gathered medicine, grain, and stripped down armor, his calm presence smoothing frayed nerves. On August 1st, while Oda's scouts massed for their final thrust, Haruto led a daring diversion, steel flashing in the pale morning light as he dueled shadowy horsemen along a ridge. Behind him, Aiko guided Kenji and a handful of monks through the damp, claustrophobic tunnel. They emerged in a coastal marsh where an oar-pounded Mori clan boat waited, its black hull silent against the silver-green water. Haruto joined them, armor dented and stained with his own blood, yet shoulders unbowed. Under cover of a half-lit sky, they slipped away, leaving Hongan-ji's battered glow to fade on the eastern horizon. As oars cut through midnight blue waves, the three companions stood at the prow. Haruto, gaze fixed on the temple's vanished silhouette, felt not shame, but fierce pride in the community he'd defended. Aiko's dark hair danced in the salty breeze. Her eyes shone clear of doubt. Kenji, staff in hand, tall and calm, exhaled hope into the night. Though their flight was born of necessity, it was more than escape. It was spark and seed. Haruto's raids had spread Oda's forces thin. Aiko's intelligence whispers traveled between rebellious daimyo. Kenji's compassion had held Hongan-ji together when all seemed lost. In western Japan, the Mori clan welcomed them as living legends. Haruto, now a strategist of renown, drilled warriors in swift, precise tactics. Aiko wove a new web of spies, her coded dispatches fueling uprisings in distant provinces. Kenji walked between wary lords, his healer's presence forging fragile truces. Their names, Crane of Hongan-ji, Shadowblade, the healer of stones, became talismans of defiance. As Nobunaga's empire splintered under rumors of betrayal and uprising, the three survivors of the siege stood ready. Their bond, forged in sweat and blood beneath Hongan-ji's walls, now glowed like a beacon that could reshape Japan's fate.
I was born where the cherry trees cry, under the shadow of a blood-red sky. Steel in my hand, fear in my breath. Each step forward, I'm chasing death.
Blade of the Crane, Episode 4, The Fall of the Storm. In late 1580, the Mori clan's coastal stronghold pulsed with life, its wooden walls a sanctuary after Hongan-ji's scars. Haruto stood on a cliff, sea winds whipping his kimono, his katana gleaming. The Crane of Hongan-ji had no doubts. The siege had forged him into a warrior for the people. His raids had weakened Oda Nobunaga, and now he trained Mori fighters in swift strikes. As waves crashed, he turned to Aiko, voice trembling.
What if we can't stop him, Aiko? What if we lose everything?
Aiko glided through the camp, her green eyes sharp as she scanned coded spy reports. Her kunai, hidden beneath her dark kosodai, recalled her past. The Shadowblade had shed her Iga clan guilt, but fear clung to her heart. She met Haruto's gaze, her voice soft but fierce.
We've survived worse, Haruto. I'll fight beside you, no matter what.
His strength anchored her, their bond a lifeline. Kenji sorted herbs in the healing tent, his staff nearby. Hongan-ji had shaped him into a steady leader, his compassion soothing warriors. Nobunaga's shadow loomed, and he whispered to Aiko, voice breaking,
I'm just a healer. How can I face a monster like him?
Her hand squeezed his.
Your heart's stronger than any blade, Kenji. We need you.
In 1581, Haruto led Mori Ashigaru against an Oda outpost. His katana flashed, cutting through guards with Hongan-ji tactics.
For our home,
he roared, voice thick with passion, rallying his men. The victory spread his name, inspiring rebels. He'd accepted his role, not a traitor, but a protector. Yet raids wouldn't stop Nobunaga. He gripped Aiko's hand, eyes desperate.
we need a spark to end this. I can't lose you or Kenji.
Aiko's spies brought word of discord among Nobunaga's vassals. In autumn 1581, she slipped into an Oda camp under a crescent moon. Rain lashed her face, her kosode soaked as she crouched in a bamboo grove. Kunai gripped tight. Lightning cracked, illuminating Akechi Mitsuhide, cursing Nobunaga's cruelty. Her pulse thundered. Betrayal was ripe. She crept closer, mud sucking at her sandals, the storm masking her steps. A twig snapped, and Akechi's scout's eyes locked onto her shadow. Her breath caught, heart pounding like war drums. She froze, reins stinging, ready to strike. The scout, scarred and grizzled, raised a hand.
Speak, Shadow.
He hissed. Voice low under the storm's roar, Aiko's eyes burned, her voice a fierce whisper.
Nobunaga trusts Akechi, but he'll crush him like us. Join us. Free Japan from his chains.
Thunder sealed her plea, her words raw with hope. The scout's gaze wavered, then nodded. Aiko vanished, heart racing with dread and fire. Back at the stronghold, she found Haruto and Kenji by a lantern. Her voice shook with emotion.
Akechi's breaking. I saw it in that scout's eyes. Hope, like ours. We can end this.
Haruto's hand found hers, his voice thick.
You're our fire, Aiko. I'd be lost without you.
Kenji's eyes glistened.
I'm ready to help for Hongan-ji.
Kenji's role became vital. Hongan-ji had taught him to bridge divides, and the Mori trusted his gentle strength. In spring 1581, he met minor clans, his healer's touch easing fears.
Join Akechi.
He pleaded, voice cracking with urgency.
We can stop Nobunaga's cruelty together.
A daimyo clasped his hand, moved.
Your heart gives us courage, healer.
Kenji's diplomacy, forged in Hongan-ji's unity, won allies, giving Akechi the clans to rebel. By late 1581, Aiko's spies fed Akechi secrets, Nobunaga's plans, his weak points. She slipped coded notes to his men, returning with her koso damp.
It's working.
She told Haruto, voice trembling with hope.
Akechi's listening.
He pulled her close, whispering,
You're braver than any warrior, Aiko.
Their bond burned brighter. Haruto led a raid on an Oda supply line in early 1582. His katana carved through guards, voice raw with defiance.
This is for Hongan-ji.
The attack forced Nobunaga to split his forces, weakening Kyoto. The crane's legend grew, tying the Mori to Akechi's rebellion. Kenji's efforts peaked in June 1582. He traveled to Akechi's camp carrying Mori promises. His calm won Akechi's trust.
Your clans give me strength,
Akechi said, voice heavy. Kenji's eyes shone, voice breaking.
End this war for all who've suffered.
His words, born of Hongan-ji's compassion, pushed Akechi to act. Kenji returned, voice soft with hope.
It's time, my friends.
On June 21st, 1582, Akechi struck at Honnō-ji, Kyoto's temple where Nobunaga rested. Haruto, Aiko, and Kenji waited in the Mori stronghold, hearts pounding. Aiko's spy rushed in, breathless.
Honnō-ji burns Nobunaga's gone seppuku.
Haruto gripped his katana, voice choked.
We're free.
Aiko's eyes glistened, her whispers now a storm.
Our fight did this.
Kenji, staff in hand, wept softly.
For Hongan-ji's people.
Their actions wove the saga's threads tight. Haruto's raids stretched Nobunaga's forces. Aiko's dramatic meeting sparked Akechi's betrayal, and Kenji's diplomacy gave Akechi the clans to win. Nobunaga's fall opened the path for Toyotomi Hideyoshi's rise. In 1583, they joined Hideyoshi. Haruto trained Ashigaru, his tactics key at Shizugatake.
Your skill saves us,
Hideyoshi told him, voice warm. Aiko's spy network guided campaigns, her kunai forging peace.
Your secrets are our shield,
A general said. Kenji, the healer of stones, forged alliances.
You unite us.
A daimyo said, bowing. Their names, Crane, Shadowblade, Healer, became legends. By 1584, they settled in a quiet village, their bond unbreakable. Haruto taught warriors, his katana a symbol of protection. Aiko trained spies, her kunai guarding peace. Kenji healed the sick, his staff a mark of hope. They'd faced doubts, Haruto's fear of treason, Aiko's guilt, Kenji's uncertainty, and triumphed. Hongan-ji forged them, Honnō-ji sealed their legacy. Under cherry blossoms, petals falling like snow, Haruto took Aiko's hand, voice breaking.
Aiko, you've been my heart since Anegawa. Marry me, please.
Tears welled in her eyes, her smile radiant.
Haruto, I've loved you through every battle. Yes.
Kenji laughed, voice warm.
You two are my family. This is perfect.
In a simple ceremony, they wed, their vows echoing their journey. Defiance, love, unity. Kenji blessed them, tears falling.
For the people, always.
Their saga, born in defiance, ended in love, their fire a beacon for a unified Japan.
The cherry trees cry under the shadow of a blood-red sky. Steel in my hand, fear in my breath. Each step forward, I'm chasing death. The wind whispers tales of my name. The earth trembles, it knows my shield I'll never hide. Shattered dreams beneath my feet, each crack a rhythm, a warrior's beat. The moon's my witness, the stars my vow. I face my demons, I face them now. Till the war is won. Through the storm, through the fire, I rise higher. I rise higher.
Ashigaru, foot soldiers in feudal Japan who were not samurai. The Ashigaru marched behind the samurai, their spears ready for battle. Boken, a wooden sword used for training in Japanese martial arts. Haruto swung his boken, practicing moves he hoped would make him a samurai. Daimyo, a powerful feudal lord who ruled a region in Japan. The daimyo ordered his warriors to prepare for the coming war. Kunai, a small sharp tool or weapon used by ninja, often for throwing. Aiko gripped her kunai, ready to strike from the shadows. Resolve, strong determination to achieve a goal. Haruto's resolve to save Kenji grew stronger despite his fear. Shinobi, another name for a ninja, a covert warrior in Japan. Aiko trained as a shinobi, learning to move without a sound. Tatami. Straw mats used as flooring in traditional Japanese homes. Kenji sat on the tatami, clutching his flute in the dim temple. Vengeance. The act of seeking revenge or punishment. The samurai swore vengeance against those who betrayed their clan.
Bulwark. A defensive wall or protection. The castle's stone bulwark stood firm against the enemy's siege. Crucible. A severe test or trial, a situation of intense challenge. The war became a crucible that forged their courage under pressure. Deserter. Someone who abandons their duty or post, especially in the military. The deserter fled the battlefield, leaving his comrades to face the enemy alone. Incense, a substance burned to produce a fragrant smoke often used in religious ceremonies. The temple was filled with the sweet scent of incense, calming the weary travelers. Kasade. A traditional Japanese short-sleeved garment, precursor to the kimono. She hid her kunai beneath her dark kasade, blending into the shadows. Reprobations, strong disapproval or condemnation, often moral. His actions earned the reprobation of the village, marking him as an outcast. Shinobi. A ninja, a covert agent or mercenary in feudal Japan. The shinobi moved silently through the forest, unseen by the enemy patrols. Unyielding, not giving way, rigid or inflexible. The temple's unyielding walls stood as a symbol of resistance against the invaders. Acrid, sharp or bitter, especially in smell or taste. The acrid smoke from the burning village stung her eyes. Assailant, an attacker or aggressor. The assailant charged with a spear, but she dodged swiftly. Claustrophobic, feeling cramped or confined, causing discomfort. The claustrophobic tunnel made his heart race with fear. Keener, sharper or more intense, often in skill or perception. His keener blade cut through the enemy's defenses with ease. Loophole. A small opening in a wall for shooting or observation. He peered through the loophole to spot the approaching enemy. Stratagem. A clever plan or tactic to outwit an opponent. Her stratagem to sabotage the enemy's supplies saved the fort. Talisman. An object believed to bring luck or protection. The small charm she carried felt like a talisman against danger. Unspooled, unraveled or unfolded, like thread or a plan. His orders unspooled smoothly, guiding the team to victory. Crescent, a thin curved shape, like a partial moon. The crescent moon cast a faint glow over the quiet camp. Discord, disagreement, or conflict among people. The discord among the lords weakened their defense. Grizzled, having grayish hair or a weathered appearance. The grizzled warrior's scars told tales of many battles. Radiant, Bright or glowing, often with emotion, her radiant smile lit up the village after the victory. Sanctuary, a safe place or refuge. The temple offered sanctuary to those fleeing the war. Seppuku, a ritual suicide by samurai to preserve honor. The defeated lord chose seppuku to avoid shame. Unbreakable, impossible to destroy or weaken. Their unbreakable bond held them together through the war. Vassals, followers, or subordinates loyal to a lord. The vassals swore to protect their daimyo with their lives.